Stop negotiating with your comfort zone. Stop waiting for motivation. Your brain was built to protect you, not to progress you. And if you don't take control of it, it will convince you that average is safe, that easy is smart, and that discomfort is dangerous. This audiobook is not about feeling inspired, that it's about reprogramming the very wiring that makes you quit, that you're about to learn how to force your brain to do hard things. Consistently, automatically, and without emotion. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Your brain is not on your side. Your brain is lying to you. Every single day. It tells you you're tired when you've barely started. It tells you you've done enough when you haven't even scratched the surface. It tells you to rest, to relax, to take it easy, and it sounds reasonable, logical, even kind. But make no mistake, your brain is not on your side. It's not built for growth. It's built for survival. And survival is the enemy of greatness. Let's be clear. Your brain's number one job is to keep you alive, not to make you exceptional. It rewards comfort. It punishes discomfort. It seeks safety, not success. Every time you feel resistance, that hesitation before a hard workout, that urge to procrastinate on an important task, that's your brain trying to protect you. It's triggering your internal alarm system, saying, "This feels hard. This feels unsafe. Stop." But that signal? That's the lie. That's the comfort circuit doing its job, keeping you locked inside your limits. You have to understand this. Discomfort doesn't mean danger. Fear doesn't mean stop. And ease doesn't mean right. Say it again with me. Safe doesn't mean right. Easy doesn't mean progress. Your instincts were shaped for the wilderness, not the modern world. Thousands of years ago, staying comfortable meant staying alive. Today, staying comfortable means staying average. You don't need to run from discomfort anymore. You need to run toward it. Because that's where the growth is. That's where the life you want actually begins. Every time you choose the hard path, you're overriding millions of years of programming. You're teaching your brain a new rule. We don't avoid hard things. We attack them. That's the moment transformation begins. Not when it's easy. Not when it's fun. But when you feel resistance and move anyway. Here's how the comfort circuit works. It's a simple loop. Cue, comfort, reward. The brain senses discomfort, it sends a warning, you avoid the challenge, your brain rewards you with relief. And the moment you take that relief, you reinforce the loop. You train your brain to believe that avoidance equals safety. You strengthen the comfort circuit every time you choose easy. It's dopamine, not destiny. You're literally addicted to comfort. You scroll instead of start. You talk instead of execute. You plan instead of move. And the worst part? You think you're making progress, but you're just feeding the comfort loop. You have to break that loop. You have to interrupt it. You have to replace comfort with commitment. When the alarm clock rings, don't think. When the doubt creeps in, don't negotiate. When your brain says later, you say now. That's how you begin to rewire yourself. That's how you build a new identity. Action first. Emotion later. You can't outthink your brain's fear, but you can outmove it. That's the key. Every repetition matters. Every time you step into discomfort instead of away from it, you weaken the old wiring and strengthen the new one. You're building a new default setting, one that rewards effort, not ease. Think about the people you admire. The athletes, the creators, the entrepreneurs, the soldiers. Do you think they feel like doing the hard thing every day? Of course not. They just stopped asking themselves if they wanted to. They trained their brain to obey, not to debate. They learned the truth you're learning right now. Your brain doesn't lead. You do. Because if you wait for permission, you'll wait forever. If you wait for motivation, you'll die waiting. You have a choice. Obey your comfort or master it. That's the choice that defines your life. Now, I want you to picture something. You wake up tomorrow and your brain whispers, "Sleep in." You earned it. But this time you recognize the voice. You hear it, but you don't believe it. You move anyway. That's victory. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, daily kind. The kind that compounds into unstoppable momentum. Every small act of defiance builds your mental armor. Every rejection of ease builds your edge. You're not weak because you feel resistance. You're human. But you become powerful when you act in spite of it. That's the difference between the average and the exceptional. The average wait for comfort. The exceptional move through discomfort. And that's the rewiring process. Not overnight, not in one big leap, but in micro decisions repeated relentlessly. You want to change your life? Stop fighting your brain. Start training it. Because it's not your enemy, it's your instrument. You just haven't learned how to play it yet. It's time to rewrite the rules. When it feels safe, question it. When it feels easy, challenge it. When it feels hard, move faster. Because that's the new comfort circuit. Discomfort equals progress. You can live your entire life reacting to that old programming, or you can take control of the code. And the moment you take control, everything changes. That's the turning point between drifting and directing your life. The voice in your head will always try to pull you back to safety. But now you know the truth, that voice isn't your ally. It's just noise. You don't owe it your obedience. You owe yourself your potential. So when you feel fear, remember, that's the signal, not the stop sign. When you feel hesitation, that's the compass pointing exactly where you need to go. And when you feel that familiar voice whisper, take it easy, you'll smile. Because now you understand, your brain is not on your side. But that's okay because you're not on its leash anymore. You don't need comfort. You need control. You don't need permission. You need progress. And it starts right now. Safe doesn't mean right. Easy doesn't mean progress. You've broken the illusion. You've seen the code. Now it's time to rewrite it. You've exposed the comfort circuit, the hidden trap keeping you average. Now it's time to go deeper. If you can't fight your brain, you have to reprogram it. Let's talk about how to do that. Chapter 2. Rewire your default settings. You can't fight your brain. You have to retrain it. That's the first truth of self-mastery most people never understand. They keep trying to battle their impulses, to power through laziness, distraction, and fear, as if brute force will rewrite the code. It won't. Because your brain doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to pattern. The key to lasting change isn't willpower, it's repetition. The more often you repeat a behavior, the deeper it gets carved into your neural wiring. That's the foundation of neuroscience. That's how habits are built. And that's how identity is formed. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. Say it again. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. Let's break that down. When you repeat something long enough, your brain stops questioning it. It automates it. It conserves energy by turning conscious effort into unconscious behavior. That's the entire purpose of a habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. The brain sees a signal, performs an action, gets a reward. And the more times that loop runs, the stronger it becomes. That's your default setting being written, line by line, repetition by repetition. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And your systems are built on what you do consistently, not what you intend. Willpower is a temporary surge. Repetition is permanent rewiring. That's the key. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't debate it. You don't negotiate with it. You don't need motivation to do it. Why? Because it's been repeated so many times that it's part of who you are. You don't think, should I brush my teeth today? You just do it. That's not discipline, that's identity. That's what you want for your goals, your work, your training, your focus. You want it to be automatic. You want it to be who you are. You don't fight the old habits, you overwrite them. And the way you overwrite them is through repetition and identity-based behavior. You don't say, I'm trying to write. You say, I'm a writer. You don't say, I'm trying to get in shape. You say, I'm an athlete. You don't say, I'm trying to be disciplined. You say, I am disciplined. That shift in identity changes how your brain interprets your actions. It no longer feels like you're forcing something unnatural. It feels like you're simply living out who you already are. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. Here's what most people get wrong. They think they can change by thinking about change. They read, they plan, they visualize, but they don't repeat the behavior long enough for it to become automatic. And because it's not automatic, they need willpower. But willpower runs out. It's a battery. It drains every time you use it. That's why you start strong and fade fast. Because you're trying to fight your old wiring with temporary motivation instead of permanent repetition. The people who win don't have more willpower, they have more automation. Their systems are built around the identity they've chosen. They don't force progress, they default to it. You can build that same wiring. But you have to start small, and you have to be ruthless with consistency. Here's how you start to rewire your default settings. Step 1. Pick one behavior. Not 10. Not 5. 1. Your brain can only rewire through focus and repetition. Step 2. Link that behavior to a cue. Time, place, or trigger, it doesn't matter. What matters is consistency. For example, every time I finish breakfast, I write for 10 minutes. Every time I close my laptop, I stretch for 5. Every time I feel the urge to scroll, I take 3 deep breaths instead. Step 3. Reward the repetition, not the result. The brain learns through reward. You reinforce the loop by associating satisfaction with execution, not with outcomes. That's how the loop locks in. You don't wait until you achieve the goal to feel proud. You feel proud the moment you show up. That's the system that keeps you moving when motivation disappears. Repetition is not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's not designed to entertain you, it's designed to transform you. Every repetition is a vote for the identity you want to become. Every time you follow through, you're telling your brain, this is who we are now. And your brain listens. It adapts. It builds new connections, new shortcuts, new patterns. The same process that built your bad habits can build your discipline. You just have to feed it the right inputs long enough. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. Say it until it sinks in. Here's a truth that most people never accept. You're not broken. You're programmed. And your programming reflects your repetitions. If you repeat comfort, your brain learns to crave it. If you repeat challenge, your brain learns to crave growth. That's why you must be intentional about what you repeat. Because every repetition is a rehearsal for the future. Every small act becomes the default you'll live by later. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel different. Start repeating the behavior until it becomes who you are. You don't rise when it's convenient. You rise when it's consistent. That's the real rewiring, not a single breakthrough, but thousands of quiet repetitions that rewrite who you are at the identity level. Now let's talk about the identity layer. When you change what you do, you get temporary results. When you change who you believe you are, you get permanent ones. Identity is the governor of behavior. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you'll subconsciously sabotage consistency. If you see yourself as weak, you'll find ways to prove it. Your brain always acts in alignment with who it believes you are. So, the work is to train your behavior until your identity updates. Then, your identity maintains the behavior. That's the loop most people never complete. Behavior creates identity, and identity reinforces behavior. That's how transformation becomes automatic. And it all starts with repetition. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. So, when you wake up tomorrow, don't try to feel motivated. Don't try to feel ready. Just repeat the behavior that matches the person you want to become. Act first. Identity follows. Every action is a command to your subconscious. Every repetition is a rewrite of your default settings. You're not forcing change anymore, you're installing it. That's the difference between fighting your brain and training it. You're not at war with your wiring. You're the engineer now. You decide what patterns stay. You decide what loops run. You decide who you become. Because once you understand this truth, everything becomes simple. You don't need more motivation. You need more repetition. You don't need to force change. You need to live it daily until it becomes effortless. Repetition reprograms. Identity enforces. That's the formula. That's the foundation. That's the code. You've learned how to rewire your default settings, how repetition and identity shape everything you do. Now it's time to remove the biggest obstacle left, waiting, because your brain will always try to delay what matters most. In the next chapter, we'll destroy that hesitation once and for all. Chapter 3. Stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a myth, a trap, a lie your brain tells you to justify inaction. You're not supposed to feel ready. You're supposed to start. Because readiness doesn't come before action. Readiness is created by action. Say it with me, action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. Every single time you've hesitated, your brain has whispered the same words, not yet. Tomorrow. When I feel more confident. When things calm down. And every time you listen, the comfort circuit wins again. You trade momentum for safety. You trade growth for delay. That voice is lying to you. It's not protecting you, it's controlling you. Your brain isn't waiting for the right time. It's buying time. Because as long as you're preparing, you're not progressing. And the longer you wait to begin, the heavier the start becomes. Here's the truth: there is no right moment. There never has been. The perfect time is the one you decide to move. Every elite performer knows this. Soldiers don't wait to feel brave before they move. Athletes don't wait to feel strong before they train. Creators don't wait to feel inspired before they create. They act first. They think later. Because they know readiness is built through repetition, not emotion. They've learned to reverse the order. They act their way into confidence. They don't wait to feel confident before they act. Action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. Think about it. The first time you did anything difficult, you didn't feel ready. You weren't ready to drive. You weren't ready to lead. You weren't ready to take the first leap toward your goal. But you did it anyway. And what happened? You became ready through doing. The same rule applies to everything that matters. Readiness is not a feeling. It's a muscle. You build it through repetition. The more you act, the less permission you need. The less you hesitate, the more you trust yourself. And the more you trust yourself, the more unstoppable you become. But your brain doesn't care about that. It's not designed to create momentum. It's designed to prevent risk. So when it senses uncertainty, it slows you down. It floods you with excuses that sound responsible. I just need to learn a little more. I need to think this through. I'll start when I feel more prepared. That's the comfort circuit at work again, convincing you that overthinking is progress. It's not. It's paralysis disguised as planning. Every maybe later is a silent never. Every delay is a decision. You just don't notice it because it feels comfortable. You don't need another plan. You need movement. Action doesn't just create results. It creates feedback. It creates clarity. It creates confidence. And you can't think your way to any of those things. You can only move your way to them. The first step doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. The second step will be smarter. The third step will be sharper. But the first step is the one that matters most because it breaks the illusion that you need to feel ready to move. That illusion has trapped millions of people for their entire lives. People with potential, with intelligence, with ambition, all waiting for a signal that never comes. Don't be one of them. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You just need action. Action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. There's a reason elite performers move fast. They understand that hesitation costs more than mistakes. Because a mistake teaches you something. Hesitation teaches you nothing. A mistake moves you forward. Hesitation keeps you frozen. Movement gives you data. Stalling gives you doubt. And doubt is poison to progress. The most dangerous words you can say are, I'll start when I'm ready, when I have more time, when I feel more confident, when things line up. That's not a plan, that's a trap. Because that moment never comes. You don't start when you're ready. You become ready when you start. So here's the process: you move first. You adjust second. You refine third. That's how momentum is built. Perfection is built from progress, not preparation. Confidence is built from exposure, not expectation. Readiness is built from movement, not mindset. You don't grow from thinking about the fire. You grow from standing in it. Every day you delay, you strengthen the neural path of hesitation. Every time you act, you strengthen the neural path of courage. You're literally training your brain which path to trust. And your brain follows what you repeat. That's why repetition matters more than readiness. Because repetition becomes your default. And your default becomes your destiny. Action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. So the next time you hear that internal voice whisper, wait, you respond with one word, now. Because now rewires your identity. Now bypasses hesitation. Now trains your brain to move when it feels resistance. The longer you wait, the weaker you become. The faster you act, the stronger you grow. You can't think your way into action. You can only act your way into clarity. Every hard decision you delay becomes a mental weight you have to carry. Every decision you execute lightens that weight. And that's how you build momentum. not through waiting but through moving. Let's make this practical. You want to build a business? Start with one call, one post, one conversation. Not next week, now. You want to get fit? Don't build the perfect routine. Do 10 push-ups. Now, you want to learn a skill? Don't watch another video about it. Try it once. Now, because motion creates energy, and energy creates progress, and progress creates confidence. That's the loop you want to live in. Stop thinking. Start moving. Because thinking feels productive, but movement is productive. You can plan for years. You can study for months. But 1 hour of focused action will teach you more than 100 hours of hesitation ever could. Action is your teacher. Waiting is your enemy. Action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. You don't have to be fearless to move. You just have to move while you're afraid. You don't have to be confident to act. You just have to act until confidence catches up. That's the secret to every breakthrough. Not comfort, not certainty, not confidence. Action. Because readiness isn't a state, it's a decision. And the moment you decide, you're ready enough. So from this day forward, stop asking yourself if you're prepared. Stop asking yourself if you're ready. You're not supposed to be. You're supposed to start, stumble, learn, adjust, and evolve. That's the path. That's the process. That's the truth. Action creates readiness. Waiting kills it. You've learned how to move before you feel ready, how to break the hesitation cycle and act your way into confidence. Now it's time to face the next wall, discomfort. Because every meaningful action will lead you straight into it. The question is, will you run from it or through it? Let's find out. Chapter 4. Discomfort is the doorway. Every goal you want lives behind a wall of discomfort. Every dream, every transformation, every breakthrough, all of it waits just past the point where most people stop. The truth is simple, most people never make it there. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack time, but because they can't handle the feeling of discomfort. They turn around the moment it hurts. They pull back the second it burns. They quit the instant it stops being easy. And that's why they never cross the line. You have to understand, the life you want will demand that you walk straight through what everyone else avoids. You will have to get uncomfortable, repeatedly, deliberately, willingly. Because discomfort isn't punishment. It's proof. Proof that you're on the right path. That's the discomfort compass. And if you learn to read it, really read it, it will guide you to everything you've ever wanted. Here's how it works. Your brain interprets discomfort as danger. But it's not danger, it's growth. Discomfort is your body's way of telling you, we've entered a zone of expansion. When you feel fear before a challenge, when you feel nervous before a presentation, when you feel resistance before taking action, that's the signal. That's not a stop sign. That's a direction. That's your compass pointing straight toward the work that will change you. The people who achieve mastery aren't the ones who avoid discomfort. They're the ones who've trained themselves to move toward it. Think about the gym. Growth happens under tension. Muscles tear. They repair. They grow stronger. Without that micro-tear, there's no adaptation. Your mind works the same way. If it's not uncomfortable, it's not growing. If it's not stretching, it's not strengthening. So when you feel that mental strain, that friction, that fatigue, that urge to stop, that's the exact moment you must keep going. Because that's where the transformation starts. Discomfort is the currency of improvement. And the price is paid up front. You can't hack it. You can't skip it. You have to feel it and move through it anyway. That's the discipline most people never develop. They avoid the very thing that could set them free. Here's what most people don't realize. The absence of discomfort is not peace. It's stagnation. It's decay. It's slow death. Comfort feels safe in the moment, but over time it steals your edge, your confidence, your hunger. It's the silent killer of potential. That's why you can't trust comfort. Comfort lies. Comfort tells you, you've done enough. Comfort tells you, take a break. Comfort tells you, you're fine where you are. But every time you choose comfort, you trade a piece of your potential for a drop of relief. And that relief never lasts. So the next time you feel that wave of discomfort rising, the hesitation before the call, the pain in the workout, the fear of rejection, recognize it for what it is. It's the doorway. And the only way out is through. Let's make this clear. Discomfort doesn't mean suffering. It means stretching. It means expanding your limits until they break and rebuild stronger. The goal isn't to chase pain for its own sake. The goal is to stop running from it. Because discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance is. The moment you stop seeing discomfort as something to fear and start seeing it as a compass, everything changes. Imagine this mindset. You start to feel anxiety before doing something big, and instead of pulling back, you lean in. You say, there it is. This means I'm about to grow. That's the discomfort compass in action. That's how you train yourself to associate resistance with progress instead of pain. Every time you run toward resistance, your comfort zone expands. And every time your comfort zone expands, your potential multiplies. That's the formula. Simple, brutal, effective. Look at elite performers, athletes, soldiers, leaders. They all have one thing in common. They've built a high tolerance for discomfort. They don't seek comfort, they seek challenge. They don't avoid the burn, they live in it. Because they've trained their minds to interpret discomfort as progress. They know that when it hurts, it's working. They know that the hard days are the ones that build the identity that can handle anything. You can do the same. Start small. Take cold showers. Speak up when your instinct is to stay silent. Push one more rep when your body says no. Do one more hour when your mind wants to stop. Every act of discomfort is an act of training. You're conditioning your brain to stop seeking easy and start seeking evolution. Here's a simple rule to live by. If it scares you, it's probably important. If it challenges you, it's probably necessary. If it hurts, it's probably working. Discomfort is not the enemy of success, it's the indicator of it. When you feel resistance, you're in the right place. When you feel tension, you're in the right zone. You don't escape discomfort, you embrace it, you study it, you walk through it. Because the only people who grow are the ones who are willing to feel what others won't. The moment you start following the discomfort compass, you'll notice something incredible. The fear doesn't go away, but your response to it changes. You stop interpreting discomfort as danger and start interpreting it as direction. You start using it as fuel. And that's when everything opens up. You'll feel the resistance and move faster. You'll sense the fear and act anyway. You'll see the difficulty and smile because now you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That's mastery. That's resilience. That's how you train your brain to obey. Because the more discomfort you can handle, the more freedom you can create. Freedom lives on the other side of resistance. Every single time. Let this sink in. Every time you run away from discomfort, you shrink. Every time you run toward it, you expand. You can live a small, easy life. Or you can live a meaningful one. You can stay safe, or you can grow. But you can't do both. Discomfort will test you. It will expose you. It will strip away your excuses and force you to meet yourself. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Because discomfort shows you where the real work is. And if you keep following that compass, it will never lead you astray. You've learned to follow the discomfort compass, to see pain as progress and resistance as direction. Now it's time to take that discipline even further. Because growth isn't about how you feel, it's about what you do when you don't feel like it. Let's master that next. Chapter 5. Detach from emotion, commit to process. Emotions fluctuate, systems stabilize. You can't build anything lasting on emotion. Because emotion is unstable. Emotion is inconsistent. Emotion changes by the hour. One day you feel unstoppable. The next, you can't even get out of bed. That's the trap of the emotional mindset. It convinces you that your feelings determine your effort. That you need to feel ready before you act. That you need to feel motivated before you move. But here's the truth, you don't need to feel ready. You need to be consistent. Because it's not emotion that creates progress. It's structure. It's process. It's discipline. Feelings follow discipline. Discipline does not follow feelings. Let me make this clear. You can't control your emotions, but you can control your process. And when you commit to your process, you win, regardless of how you feel. That's how high performers operate. That's how soldiers, athletes, and leaders execute at the highest levels. Not through emotion, but through system. In the military, emotion is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you're scared. It doesn't matter if you don't feel like it. The mission doesn't care. The standard doesn't care. You show up, execute, repeat. That's the power of detachment. You detach from how you feel and attach to what must be done. That's mental toughness in its purest form. You see, most people live their entire lives chasing emotion. They chase the feeling of motivation. They chase the feeling of excitement. They chase the feeling of inspiration. But all of those feelings fade. Motivation is a spark, not a system. And when the spark dies, most people stop moving. That's why they start and quit. Start and quit. Start and quit again. They're ruled by emotion instead of ruled by structure. But the people who win, the people who build, who transform, who endure, they don't rely on emotion. They rely on systems. They rely on process. They rely on doing what needs to be done whether they feel like it or not. That's the secret nobody wants to hear, because it's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's repetition. It's routine. It's boring. But boring wins. Because boring builds consistency. And consistency builds results. Think about this. Your emotions are like the weather. They change without warning. They shift with circumstance. But your process is the foundation beneath it. The process doesn't change with the weather. It doesn't care if it's raining or sunny, easy or hard. The process says, this is what we do. Every day. No matter what. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs wait to feel like it. Professionals show up anyway. They know that emotion cannot lead because emotion cannot be trusted. They let the system lead, and emotion follows. Feelings follow discipline. Discipline does not follow feelings. Here's how you detach from emotion and commit to process. Step 1. Define your non-negotiables. These are the things you do daily no matter what, the anchors of your life. Your workout, your writing, your morning routine, your study time. Whatever builds your future, make it non-negotiable. Step 2. Eliminate negotiation. Stop asking yourself how you feel about doing it. Your feelings aren't on the schedule. The task is. Step 3. Track execution, not emotion. Stop measuring success by how you feel. Measure it by what you did. If you followed the process, you won. If you executed your system, you won. Because the scoreboard of discipline is not emotional comfort. It's consistency. You can't control your moods, but you can control your motion. You can't control your feelings, but you can control your focus. That's the key. You build discipline by moving first and letting the emotion catch up later. Most people have it backwards. They wait to feel good before they take action. But it's action that makes you feel good. Action creates energy. Action creates confidence. Action creates readiness. When you act despite emotion, you train your brain that emotion doesn't control you, you control it. That's how you rewire your mental hierarchy. You become the commander, not the captive. Feelings follow discipline. Discipline does not follow feelings. Every champion, every performer, every leader you admire lives by one law: execute regardless of emotion. They wake up tired and they still go. They feel fear and they still move. They lose motivation and they still execute. Because they understand this truth: motivation is temporary. Momentum is earned. And momentum is built through process. Not through hype. Not through mood. Through consistency. You don't need to love the work. You just need to respect the process. Because when you respect the process, the results will come. And when the results come, the emotion follows. That's the sequence. Discipline first. Emotion second. Let's go deeper. Emotion is feedback. It's not instruction. It tells you what's happening, but it doesn't tell you what to do. If you listen to emotion, you'll make emotional decisions, and emotional decisions are inconsistent decisions. They lead to chaos. They lead to burnout. They lead to regret. But when you let the process lead, you make stable decisions. Predictable decisions. Progressive decisions. That's how you create sustainable growth, by separating the feeling from the function. Remember this: the goal is not to suppress emotion. It's to strip it of authority. You don't fight it, you override it. You let the emotion exist, but you keep the process moving. You can feel anxious and still take action. You can feel tired and still execute. You can feel unmotivated and still show up. Because discipline isn't emotional, it's directional. It doesn't care about how you feel, it cares about where you're going. Feelings follow discipline. Discipline does not follow feelings. The reason military systems work so effectively is because they're built on this principle. When soldiers train, emotion is removed from execution. They're taught to act automatically, systematically, mechanically, because emotion and chaos can get you killed. That's why structure saves. That's why systems outperform moods. When the mission starts, they don't think, they execute. The system takes over. The body knows what to do because it's been trained through repetition. That's mastery. And that's what you must build, not a dependency on feeling, but a dependency on discipline. You can't depend on your mood. You can depend on your structure. Detach from emotion. Commit to process. That's how you build consistency. That's how you create momentum. That's how you master yourself. Because your emotions will betray you. Your discipline won't. Your motivation will vanish. Your system won't. When you feel lost, come back to the process. When you feel tired, come back to the process. When you feel doubt, come back to the process. The process is your anchor. The process is your truth. The process is your path. And once you commit to it completely, emotion becomes irrelevant. Because you no longer wait to feel good to do good. You do what's required and the feeling follows later. Feelings follow discipline. Discipline does not follow feelings. You now understand the truth. Your brain's job is to keep you comfortable. Your job is to keep it obedient. Every hesitation, every excuse, every delay, it's not weakness. It's wiring. But wiring can be rewritten. Every time you choose discomfort, you rewrite it. Every time you act without emotion, you reprogram it. Every time you finish what you start, you take control back. Don't wait for motivation, command execution. Don't hope to feel ready, build readiness through action. The people who win in this life aren't smarter. They're simply those who learned how to force their brain to do hard things, long after the feeling to quit has arrived. Starting today, train your mind to obey. Because once you master that, everything else becomes easy.